What's a harmless thing that terrified you as a child? Turn off the lights to the basement, and then running up the stairs. I'm 35 and I still do that. Lawn flamingos. My big sister told me that they could take your soul if you looked into their eyes, so I'd run past them with my eyes covered. That's the kind of stuff I loved about being the oldest sibling, lol. When I was young, my older brother convinced me that sugar gliders would kill people by flying down their throat when their mouths were open, and I believed that up until about a year ago. I'm 20 now. Emergency broadcast. Hate that noise to this day. Oh hell yes. When I was a kid, the next thing you expected to hear after that was the bombs dropping. The FBI warning before movies scared the shit out of me. I was terrified of the glowing lights coming out of the earth during the Universal theme song. Swallowing seeds from fruits. Was teased that they would grow and take over my insides and a tree would eventually burst out of me. Parents told me this too. I believed them. I believed them so thoroughly until I said the same thing to my new college roommate. She told me it was all a lie. If you breathe in a seed though, it can actually start growing in your lungs. This happened to someone. Old televisions, right after you turned them off, they would glow for a bit. That's when the monsters could come out of the TV and get you. Sounds like poltergeist has scarred another person. I had to, and still do, always close my closet doors and was absolutely terrified of looking under my bed, especially at night. That's why I have bed from IKEA with drawers under, so no space to hide. I once proudly said to my therapist that there was no space under my bed, and no closet in my bedroom, so no places for no monsters to hide. She answered, "You still have a door, right?" This is why I'm always locking my door before I go to sleep. To prevent anyone from saving you. Sharks in the swimming pool. Could be 3 feet deep and I was still terrified Jaws was just gonna leave only my trunks floating in the water. Ceiling fans. I was afraid that it would come off the ceiling still spinning and chop me up like a helicopter blades. Yeah, I totally grew out of that fear. It's not like I, an adult, strategically arranged my bed to make sure that the ceiling fan can't kill me while I sleep. That would be so silly. That happened to me years ago. My ex-husband and I were sleeping when we heard a loud womp womp womp, and we both sat up and one of the blades went flying off. Luckily it went the opposite way of us, but it scared the crap out of us. Well, now that fear will never leave. Thanks, I guess. Escalators scared the shit out of me. Trying desperately to fit within a rectangle before it becomes a step. Jumping off of them at the end to avoid being sucked down into oblivion. And there was 1 or 2 anecdotal stories from the news to convince me that they were, in fact, killers. My mom always emphasized the dangers of escalators so that I would be cautious and hold her hand. But she tended to use graphic descriptions of like how it would suck my hair and if I fell down it, and then they wouldn't be able to get me out. So I found them disproportionately terrifying. Now as a 34-year-old woman, I avoid down escalators unless I absolutely have to use them, and then it takes me a minute to psych myself up to step on. It's basically the embodiment of that David Mitchell quote. The trouble is that some children are timorous and some children are reckless, and in order to save the lives of reckless children, warnings are calibrated for their safety. The result of which is that the timorous live in a state of perpetual terror. What I needed to be told is, you know what? Most days you won't die. It's fine. I'm dead certain I triggered an escalator to go into safety shutdown mode as a kid. It had bristles on either side, so I shoved my dumb kid foot into it thinking it was a shoe polisher, and when my dumb kid foot got stuck for an instant, the whole thing came to a sudden halt. The grumblings of all the adults, parents of mine included, made me think I shouldn't ever tell this until just now. It isn't a shoe polisher? I still do that, guess I'll stop now. Whenever the floorboards creaked, I imagined myself or my bed falling through the floor into the basement. Happened to a neighbor's daughter, 13-year-old girl, chilling in the bath. There's a creak and next thing the bath is in the kitchen. She wasn't hurt. That fucking alligator under my bed that wanted to eat my feet. You gotta turn the lights out and jump in bed quick to avoid its wrath. So here are some weird things I was afraid of for literally no reason, and what I did about them. 1. that someone would stab me in the back in the night. I had a big stuffed bear I slept with on my back, his arms tucked under my armpits. He was Bagel, and his job was to give his life for mine. 2. I was terrified we'd suddenly have to run in the middle of the night, I never knew from what. I kept a go bag under my bag with a change of clothes and underwear and shoes and some books and travel games and such. Other than the clothes, everything in the bag was useless. Honestly, I don't know why I did these things. No one in my family had ever had to run from anything. No one had ever been attacked. We lived in a safe neighborhood, but they were my greatest fears as a child. Terry Fox. So in Canada we have Terry Fox Day and the Terry Fox Walk because this guy, Terry Fox, tried to run across the country on one leg to raise cancer awareness. My child brain, however, didn't quite understand why. I didn't really understand what cancer was, and nobody would tell me anything more than it's what took Terry's leg. I assumed it was a person or something. So all I knew was that we were walking because a dead man with one leg said we should spread word about cancer who stole his leg and giving him money. I was so scared that if I forgot to donate, or if I missed the walk, that Terry Fox's ghost would come with whoever cancer was and take my leg too. This is why people need to properly explain things to kids and not use euphemisms and such. When I was a kid, there were these PSA ads about how secondhand smoke is a health hazard for children, which had the slogan, "If you smoke, they'll smoke too." The ad showed images of children in regular situations with CGI smoke coming out of their mouths as they breathed. Because of these ads, kid me got the idea that if I accidentally breathed in cigarette smoke from someone smoking by me, I would forever be smoking and seeing my breath just like that. I would then die young because I was smoking. Naturally, I was terrified of people smoking, and cold days would make me shit. So yeah, you're right. I told my mom that my granddad was drinking and driving. I didn't understand that drinking a bottle of Coke was fine. Porcelain dolls. I'm 27 now and still terrified, lol. It's the cold, dead stare. Those gives me the creeps. Not weird at all. On this similar note, baby monitors. They always use this shit in creepy movies. I would hear the static and my baby in black and white and feel like something's going to jump at the screen. Quicksand. Hey, someone actually left me and my brother intentionally in quicksand once. We didn't know what it was, and that guy casually said, "Go on, stand over there," to my brother, who went, and suddenly I see him sinking. I run to help him but start sinking too, and this guy just took a chair, sat on it, and laughed while watching us sinking. We got in up to our chests until he thought it was enough fun, and took us back home. Mom was raving mad when we got back home covered in all that mud. That feeling of helplessness was horrible. My sister had to escape quicksand, leaving her waders behind. She goes to beaches to take samples for work, and that beach took a sample of her. That little rope of buoys that separated the deep end from the shallow end in the pool. Yes, I'm 35 and those still creep me out. Not to mention those large buoys in lakes, oceans. I'm not much of a swimmer, BC. Pretty much anything in the water, including dark water itself, creeps me out. The sound of the toilet flush. I would wash my hands first, then flush and run out of the bathroom. I was afraid of flushing the toilet too. Wow, toilets really scared the shit out of you guys. I was 100% convinced that snakes would come up out of the toilet and eat me. I was convinced I'd be sucked in, and then I'd have to live in the sewers. Didn't help much when flushed away came out. I was on the toilet, and for some unthinkable reason I was scared that the Hulk would come out the toilet and shove a knife up my ass. Why the Hulk? And why wouldn't he just shove his fists up my ass? Either way, it fucking confuses me. That the knot in my belly button would come undone, and all my insides would leak out. I wish I was making this up. I also realize now that your navel is not an actual knot. Also, that if too much of my arm or leg was sticking out from under the blanket, the bad guy would be able to get me. I told my kid he was gonna untie the knot in his belly button and his guts would fall out. On my defense, he had scratched it, and it was infected, and I needed him to keep his grubby mitts away from it while it healed. He's 22 now and not much worse off for my desperate parenting. Helicopters. I remember freaking out and crying if I saw one. They were like sky spiders. The concept of eternity. I was raised Christian and was terrified of the idea of spending forever in either heaven or hell. Forever sounded scary. What's a harmless thing that terrified you as a child? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.